Scott Thompson, Hamilton today. Major Tom McKay is on the board, always looking for your last word, 905-645-3221. Or you can talk, you can text, you can jump on any way you'd like. Send us a note, Scott Thompson at 900CHML.com. Lots of issues in a post-pandemic world. The homeless issue has just skyrocketed in cities right the way across this country. Hamilton certainly no different, and the homeless situation has become a full-blown crisis in many areas, including this one. Lots of different suggestions coming up. Not really solid solutions at this point, including supplying services to encampments that are already set up, and that was turned down by City Council. However, are now researching the idea of an Advocate Registry, which would allow residents to host someone living in an encampment to live on their property, are being looked at by city staff. This after Council votes 9-6 in favor of looking into this proposal. The idea has earned various responses and perspectives, among them the tenants' rights group ACORN. Hamilton has weighed in. Our guest represented ACORN at a rally held outside of City Hall on Friday, staged by the Hamilton Encampment Support Network, urging Council to drop the idea and focus on other solutions. To talk more about all of this, Stuart Klasinga is with us, member of ACORN, Hamilton's East End chapter, and with us now. Stuart, thanks for the time. Hope you're well.
I am doing well, and yourself?
So far, so good, Stuart. This is a problem which obviously we can't turn away from. It has grown that much. What is your thought on the Advocate Registry, which allows residents to host people, encampments on their property? Your thoughts, how this would all play out?
Well, first, I don't see the City of Hamilton's legal department signing off on this in any way. So I don't see it getting past that particular hurdle, but it's not a housing solution. I mean, sure, they can let someone live in their backyard in a tent, but then what happens when they say, okay, no, I want to use my backyard for something else, you have to leave? We're just moving them around again. Adequate housing is a human right, and it's one that the city is failing to provide to its residents, and the housing market and the rental market is certainly not helping with that. I mean, many people with jobs just cannot afford a place to live. And so housing being a commodity that is essentially traded and bartered for profit is really the root cause of all of this, in my opinion.
Do you think that these ideas are being floated around as a viable option, or just something in midterm to just get us to where we need to be?
The idea on its own can never be more than a temporary stopgap, a Band-Aid measure, so to speak. But it's not something that the city should be doing, because the city has the resources and the authority to go beyond charity, which is essentially what this policy is creating. So if there was, say, a church with a large yard that was saying, we are opening our space for houseless people to come and set up a tent here, I myself would be perfectly fine with that, because it's their, like, that is how they can affect change, or at least do something positive, is through creating charity. The city does not need to create charity. Charities are created because governments fail to act appropriately.
What about providing services for the encampment, which was discussed earlier?
So I'm not as well versed on that, but absolutely, people who don't have a place of their own, they still need access to clean water. They still need access to basic hygiene and garbage collection, stuff like that. If this is all that we are leaving them, like all the space that we're leaving them to occupy, then we should do as much as we can to ensure that that space is safe for them, it is clean for them, and that we look after them like we would look after any other resident in the city.
And obviously, issues with encampments come with the winter months. I mean, how do you do the camping through the summer months is one thing. Once you get into November, December, January, February, March, that's a whole different scenario. What do you do then? So, in your mind, Stuart, we talk about housing, and we need more housing, we need more, and that's been an ongoing issue with homelessness prior to the pandemic. Now we've seen this spike, this rapid spike. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, we need to start opening up as much spaces as we can. We need to see vacant homes and vacant units filled. We can't let these spaces remain unoccupied when there are people living on the street. The city needs to incentivize affordable housing being built. The city needs to ensure that there are the resources for those things to get built within the city.
So for you, this is simply build more affordable housing, create more affordable housing spaces rather than temporary Band-Aid solutions that we're seeing.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that simply more affordable housing would solve every problem, but it would certainly go a long way. Like empty schools, empty office buildings.
Yeah.
The city has the authority and the resources to ensure that those kinds of spaces can be used as better stopgap Band-Aid measures. So that's another route to take. But in the end, we need more places available, and they need to be affordable, and we need to be providing adequate shelter for everyone.
I'm not sure how many vacant buildings there are, Stuart, in the city, but you're talking about things like schools and such, and we certainly know there are a couple of them. Why hasn't something like that been suggested? Is it possible? Is it feasible?
I don't know. That's not exactly my wheelhouse. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that it has to do with the relationship between the school board, who is ultimately responsible for that property, and the city. There are different authorities at play there, and anytime you're trying to get two bureaucracies or governments to communicate to each other, everyone knows that it's not as simple as it sounds, right? So.
Your thoughts on the tragic story we heard over the weekend, a dispute between landlord and tenants, homicide, 3 people killed as a result of this, young couple and the landlord. I mean, my goodness, where does this go, Stuart?
Well, we were certainly shocked when we read the news. We're deeply troubled by this, and tenants facing threats or harassments from their landlords isn't something new, but this is certainly an extreme example. And we're also very disappointed by some of the comments that we're reading online being left by housing commodity speculators, as well as the landlord lobby. Suggestions that these tenants were pushing their landlord to the brink and the landlord snapped, or that this is the fault of the landlord tenant board, and the landlord tenant board isn't strict enough on tenants. The landlord tenant board has a very long and well established history of being in favor of the landlords more than anything else. So,
Stuart Klasinga with us, member ACORN, Hamilton's East End chapter, and talking about Advocacy Registry for those that are homeless. Stuart, thanks for the time and insight. Much appreciated. Be well.
Thank you very much for having me on. Have a great day.
3:45 news coming